Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Pokemon Race to Glory. We're here, we're gonna do one more grinding episode, so if you're not down for that, go ahead and skip this one. But I'll do my best to talk us through it just because it's gonna be just 30 minutes of grinding, and then I think we're gonna take on Claire. I feel like we'll be in pretty good shape. I'm gonna do something a little wonky, a little bit different than what I was expecting. I think I'm going to put Attract on Paku, and I might be greedy about it. And I don't need to go up to the gym. I might be greedy about it and do it. I might get him to delete Surf and then put Surf back on afterward because it's an HM, and just to keep Yawn. I'm not sure. Attract is way better, but the problem, like as far as like if you can actually use it, the problem with it is theoretically you can't use it against well, definitely not theoretically, you can't use it against Pokemon of the opposite gender, or that aren't the opposite gender. So that's where I worry that it could be very useful overall in this gym because they're all females. But if Paku can't attract the men as well as the ladies, then we're in worse shape than keeping Yawn, which is effective against everyone. Not totally sure what the best call is on that front, but we will do our best to try and grind up to a point where we don't need to worry too much either way. But I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of give up on leveling my Bronzong at the minute, not forever, just for this gym, just because it doesn't learn another move until level 39. I looked, and that's just so far away right now that I think it'd be better to just focus on Azula getting to that amazing master state that we need her to be in for this gym. Oh my god, it's just so annoying here. Needless Tangle Growth, needless out of you. But we'll take your 700 EXP. So yeah, that is one thing that I'm considering, is putting Attract, because I'd like to just get through Gyarados, and then I think we can probably take everyone else down with Azula. But I just need someone to get through the first Mon with the Intimidate is the big thing. Nice. And I think we're going to use Sandstorm against the Kingdra, or probably actually against the Dragonair is the safer bet, because it'll last for 5 turns. So we'll use it against the second Dragonair if she gives us that opportunity. I don't know what her plan is. She might send in Kingdra right away, in which case we will probably just try and hit it. Nah, I think the evasion piece is very helpful. Oh, what am I doing? I could use Sand Tomb on those fuckers because they're weak to that. So yeah, I'm thinking about my options on that front. We will see, but I think the evasiveness will help us a great deal. Kingdra is a very, very scary mon. To be honest, it's definitely going to be able to 2-shot us, or if it crits, 1-shot for sure, because it's got Sniper, and Snipers, as we've learned in our previous runs, very, very strong. So, very strong indeed. Ooh, a Snover. Not going to take the risk on this just being 4 times weak to Ice. It's just whatever EXP it can give us. I don't want to risk death for. Yeah, these Scroopies honestly are not worth 400 EXP either, but let's see if we can kill them with Sand Tomb. No, that's not very effective. I thought it was better than that. Bummer. Wow, that's a lot. Let's try Slash. There we go. Bye, Scroopy. I might not fight you anymore. Where'd all the Electabuzz go? We liked them. Yeah, so I'm reading a book called The Birds and Other Stories. It is by Daphne Dumont. I'm not sure how to say her last name. I'm horrible with French pronunciation. We'll be running from those too. And Dumarie, I'm not sure, but great set of short stories. Honestly, I really am a big fan so far. I think I maybe have talked about some of them in previous episodes, but one I just read, so there's no way I have shared it with anyone. Shared it on the camera, but really great short story called Kiss Me Again, Stranger. And basically this guy is like kind of this, oh man, that only gives 500 EXP too. Maybe I should go somewhere else to grind. Let's try killing a Snover actually. So this guy is just kind of like a working class dude. He fuck yeah, okay, we kill it. He works in like a garage, so he, you know, does like car repairs and shit, and he one day just decides to go to the movies, and he falls in love with oh gosh, come on, this usher woman who just like leads him into his seats, and it's kind of creepy. Like it is a really creepy story, but it's written by a woman, so it's not like, yeah, I think it's a woman exploring what it's like to be on the other end of that. But anyway, he falls in love with her, and then he follows her after the movie to the bus station and gets on a bus with her and pays for their tickets, and like she tells him like, oh okay, like wow, it's not every day I get a free ride, and she's kind of dismissive and like aggressive the whole time, which is kind of cool that she's like in this power position or whatever. But and yeah, so he's like, well, I paid all this money for these bus rides, we're just gonna ride it to the end. But she's like, no, just like wake me up. She's like, wake me up when we get past the graveyard. And he's like, what graveyard? What does that mean? And and oh fucking really, oh my gosh. He gets pretty far down the road, and it's like pretty late at night at this point, and there's not really, he's like, she wakes up eventually, and he's like, yeah, it's not really been a graveyard yet. And he's like, I might have missed it, but I haven't seen one. And she's like, oh, there'll be others. And he's like, what the fuck does that mean? And she's like, oh, just meaning like there'll be other stops, is what she tries to clarify there. And he's like kind of confused and wigged out. And so yeah, then he goes with her to this bar, or not bar, like a coffee shop. They get off the last stop, and he's super happy just to go be with her. And she's like, let's go get a coffee. And so he goes and gets a coffee, there we go, with her. And there are all these guys just sitting around getting a coffee as well. And one of them is wearing like an Air Force uniform, and she's like kind of upset about it, and like says something about it, and he's like, oh, I was in the military but not the Air Force. And she's like, you weren't in the Air Force, just double checking, right? And he's like, yeah, like no. And then later she reveals, like, they're walking around, and then it starts raining. Then she walks around and they go into a graveyard together. It's kind of weird, but yeah, they go into a graveyard, it's raining, and she's like, tombstones are flat. And he's like, okay. And he's not really expecting anything, or it's like halfway between expecting something and not. And then yeah, she reveals like he asked her what was up about the whole Air Force thing, and she's like, oh well, the Air Force like killed my family, like during World War II. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, that was the German army. These are like British Air Force. What are you talking about? The Royal Air Force. and she's like, same difference. It doesn't matter what side they were on. Like, they all killed people or whatever. And he's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then they're just like sitting. She's like sitting on this tombstone in the wet, cold rain. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, you should go home. Like, leave me here. That's what I want. And he's like, why? Like, I'll walk you home. Like, make sure you get home safely. It's like midnight. And she's like, no, leave me here. Like, that's what I want. And then, oh, I forgot that they kissed on the bus. He like kisses her on the bus. And then, yeah, so then she says like, oh, like, kiss me again, stranger, which is what the story is called. And so that happens one more time before he's like, okay. And then he leaves and he goes home and he's like, walks all the way back home because all the buses have stopped running. So it's like, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something. He gets home and he goes to work the next day and he has a long one, but he's like thinking about going back to the movie theater and just like seeing this girl again and very excited about that. And so during his like quick break at work, he asks his boss if he can run out to go get something from the store, and he's like, yeah, cool. And so he goes to a jewelry store and buys her like a brooch in the shape of a heart, like a diamond brooch, and he has to like take out an advance at work for it, and he's super excited to go give it to this girl. And then he finally gets off work after working late, and his boss is like, oh, we'll get you overtime, and yeah, I'll cover your advance or whatever. And then yeah, so he gets all the way to the movie theater finally, and there's another girl there, but not the one he's expecting. And he asks like, hey, where's the woman from yesterday? He actually never learned her name. Like, we never learned her name either. And the new girl's like, well, she didn't show up, so they called me in. And he's like, what do you mean she didn't show up? She's like, I don't know, but you're not the first one to ask. Like, police officers were here earlier and they talked to the manager. And he's like, what happened? She's like, do I know? Like, I just got called in. And so he goes and talks to the manager briefly, and no, he doesn't talk to the manager. He thinks about talking to the manager, and then he also thinks about he's like, oh, I'll talk to the police too, but or maybe I'll talk to the police too, like after I go figure this out after work or whatever. And then he goes and talks with he like tries to find her. If he's like, oh no, he's like, if I can't find her by tomorrow, like I'll talk to the police and see what they know. Or like what happened. And it's like the whole time he's like picturing her dead and like so sad and scared. And then he goes home, and then the next day at work his boss is talking to him. Maybe messed up like the chronology of this a little bit, but that doesn't really matter. So he goes home and talks to his boss the next day at work or whatever, and the boss is like, oh, did you see what was in the newspaper? It was like, poor Air Force guy. And he's like, what are you talking about? Basically, it's like, yeah, it's the third one now, but there's this Air Force guy was stabbed to death in the stomach by in a graveyard. It's the third one across the UK. She's now been described, like he reads the paper and he's like, she's now been described because this guy barely survived, and yeah, like described what was happening, and it was like the same Air Force guy in the bar, and he's like, yeah, she was with another man, and then I thought she had ditched him and came to try and find me, and then she stabbed me in the gut, and now she's like, the police are like looking for her, and it like says specifically like, this man, like if this man knows anything, he should come forward. Like whoever this man is should come forward and talk to the police so they can apprehend this dangerous killer. And yeah, and then the story ends on a beautiful line of like, he stood there clutching the little heart in his hand. I didn't get that line quite perfect, but like, beautiful image of him clutching this little brooch heart that he has for this girl he's in love with, who's also a murderer. Very powerful, very cool. I love stories like that where you've got this like unhappy ending, but really powerful image as well. Oh yeah, crit. And yeah, so I like that one a lot. It's really good. A lot of her stories are really dark. Like, none of her stories are light and happy. So if you're looking for that, don't recommend Daphne Demore. I don't know how the fuck to say it, man. I wish I knew. But yeah, really good stories. Another one she talked about, or like another one's about like a rich woman on vacation in a hotel in France, and her rich marquis husband or whatever is like doing business elsewhere, and so yeah, she's just hanging out and doing her thing with the kids, and she just like thinks about all her friends who are having like these amazing affairs, like love affairs, and she's like really sad about how she's never had one and how unexciting her life is and all this shit. And then she goes into town to get something from a shop one day, or like all the shops are closed. But she thought they would be open for some reason. It's like during the siesta hour, I guess. And so she she goes into this shop, right? And then she leans against the shop window, or next to the shop window. Oh yes, we get dig here. Yeah, perfect. Let's get rid of sand tomb. Dig will be nice. Nice, we're level 40. I think that's going to be good enough on Azula for now. So let's go ahead and switch over to... Nope. Switch. Not Paku. Maybe Paku, but Appa for sure. Yeah, so we'll just finish this episode out grinding, and then we'll take on the gym in the next one, just in case anyone did skip it. But yeah, so she's just like leaning against the shop window, and this guy, this guy comes out, and yeah, fuck, that's so annoying. And lets her in because it's really hot, and gives her some water, and we need to get the EXP share off of her. Item take. And now our strongest Pokemon. Pretty funny how that works. So yeah, he talks to her, and then he's like, oh yeah, you came into my shop the other day. Sorry, drinking water. He's like, and since you did, I've been unable to think of anything else. Just about you, basically. Which is, kind of interesting. And she's like, oh, interesting. And then she tries to remember him, and can only remember like his sister, who's got this like club foot disorder or whatever. But then she's like, okay, this guy's kind of handsome, basically. And then she like talks to him, and she's like, oh, you're a photographer, and he's like, yeah, I am. And she's like, why don't you come and do photographs of me and my kids at the hotel? And so he does that, and comes by the next day and takes these really great photos of her, and they just are really like seductive and flirty together. And then she realizes like, oh, he also has like this deformed foot, which is kind of interesting to her, but also not like, I don't know, she's like judgmental about it, but she's also like doesn't care, and she's just kind of excited for the attention, it seems like. It's kind of interesting dynamic there. And yeah, definitely a little ableist, but anyways, so she like is in love with, or not in love with this guy, but like he's in love with her, and he like leaves her this cryptic. He's like, oh, I go by this walk, or I go by the cliffside every day for a walk, and you should join me there if you want to. I'm like, no one's ever there. It's always just super quiet, and no one's there because it's the siesta hour, and they're all at home. It's too hot to walk during the day, and he tells her how to get there. And then she like doesn't go for like 3 days, and then eventually she goes. And on that day, he takes some pictures of her by the rock, and it's all romantic. And then she's like, "Why haven't you kissed me yet?" And he kisses her, and then they start meeting and fucking there every day. And he's like desperately in love with her. And yeah, so he continues to come and show up every day, and she like goes there. And then one day, block, what's block do? I don't know. No, we don't want block, not a cock block. But yeah, so he goes there every day, and then one day she decides not to come. She just wants to hang out by the pool or whatever. And he's like distraught the day afterward when she comes, and he's like, "Where are you? Like, I thought something happened, and like I'm devastated." And she's like, "No, I just wanted to hang out by the pool." And yeah, so she realizes like, "Oh God, this guy's obsessed with me," basically. Finally, she realizes that, and then she's like, "Well, my husband's coming in like 3 days, and then I'll be leaving forever, so like you have to get used to me not being around," basically. And he's like, no, like I'll follow you wherever you'll go. Like another kind of creepy. Ooh, we're low health there. Another creepy male relationship there, where he's like, "I'll follow you." Not what women want. Not what women want. Don't do that, people. I would love the EXP here, but I don't want to risk death. Yeah. So yeah, he's like, "I'll follow you wherever you'll go," and she's like, "Bro, what the fuck? Like, no, you're not gonna follow me to my real life after this. Like, this is gonna end." And he's like devastated because he's just confessed his love to this woman, and his whole life revolves around her, and he's only known her for like 3 weeks or whatever, right? And then she's like, "Oh my God, like no, I can't," and is pretty insistent that she wants nothing to do with him after she leaves, and that he's not going to do it, like not going to be around her again after this. And he's like, he breaks down and starts crying, right? And so then he's like, "I'm going to tell your husband." It's like, I recognize who you are now. Like, you're just this cruel, evil woman, and you do this to men, and it's not okay. And so I'm going to tell your husband, and he'll know, and everyone will know. I'll tell everyone. And she's like furious and desperate and scared for a minute, and without thinking, she just kind of pushes him over the cliff. And he falls and doesn't even cry out once, and he just falls away and dies. And then she like leaves. Ooh, I didn't know extra sentry could make people flinch. She like leaves, and then she like pretends to be by the beach and like goes and splashes in the waves, so it looks like she's been swimming and that she has like an alibi. She does all this like toxic shit to like cover up for the fact that she just murdered this dude. Yeah, so she does all this and then goes back, and then like a day later, the hotel gets a call, and it's like, "Oh no, like this poor guy died." And she's like, "Oh, that's so sad. Like, let me send flowers to his sister, who is now destitute without her brother to help run the shop," right? And so she does that, and then he's dead. Like, his body's washed up on shore. And yeah, so there's all this like news report, and they think it's like an accident because like he has a deformity, and he was known to go walking by himself, and blah 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 blah. And so yeah, this happens, and then her husband does finally come, and she's like, "Get me away from here." But right when her husband comes, to pick her up. The man's sister comes and finds her and like insists on seeing her because she's found the photographs of her by the seaside, and the woman talks to the sister alone, and the sister is like, oh, like, you know, I bet you wouldn't want your husband or your kids or, you know, basically like anyone to hear about or see these photos. And she's like, no, I don't even want to see them. Like, don't show them to me. And she gets all haughty about it. And she's like, I'll take care of you, basically, like, if you just don't show these. And she like tries to give her, like, I guess she has like a 20,000 franc note. I don't know how much that'd be in contemporary times or in dollars or pounds or anything that any of us use, but and this woman's like, that seems like a pretty small price to pay for how good of a vacation you had here, and like, I think I have friends in Paris and I'm gonna move there, and you can take care of me from there. And this woman basically like has to take care of this sister of the person she murdered, which is pretty cruel, crazy ending again. Just another really messed up but good story. And then oh my gosh, yeah, the one before that I read, this is the last one I'll tell because we only have a few minutes left, but it's about a guy, his wife has died, and he starts thinking that this apple tree, this old rotten apple tree, is like reminds him of his wife. And okay, we're just gonna run from the Ninjask. Oh god damn it. Anyway, so this apple tree is very much like his dead wife, who he hates. Gosh. And so yeah, he he decides he's gonna cut it down, and then just before he's gonna cut it down, his gardener is like, no, we can't cut it down. Like, look, there's petals on it. It's gonna bloom. This apple tree's gonna bloom for the first time in years. And so he's like, okay, we'll give it one season, and then it does bloom, but it is this really gross, disgusting colored apples. Oh my god, it's so annoying. It's really gross, and like everyone thinks they're super sweet, except this guy, the man, realizes that or tries to taste them, and they're really gross, and like they've cut up a branch that fell off and used it as firewood, and it smells really gross to him, and all these things are just really gross, right? Because they're like, he thinks it's his dead wife, basically. Ooh, yikes. I don't think we outspeed this, so we'll take the risk. Yeah, good call there. Yeah, so he eventually he's like so tired of looking at this tree, and it's so awful to him that he decides one day to cut it down. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in the middle, but I'm just speeding through because we only have a minute. And so it's starting to snow at this time, and so he's like, oh shit, I've got to cut this down quick. And so he does spend the day cutting it down, and it's like a pain in the ass to cut it down. It's really hard to make it happen, and the saw blade gets stuck, and it's fighting against him basically the whole time. So he has this hard time cutting down the tree, and eventually he finally does get it down, and he takes all the logs over to this like local bar basically, and he's super happy with himself for doing it. And then he goes out to admire like the other trees that have kind of been overshadowed by this old ugly one, right? And then he like gets stuck in the root, like his foot gets stuck, and he can't get his boot out of the root system here, and so he's like, oh shit, and the snow's really coming down, and he feels the flakes on his face, and he's like, I'm gonna freeze to death, and he can't get his boot out, and he can't get out of his boot, and he's trapped, and this old man just like freezes to death. Very sad, creepy story. We'll go back to the gym now, the center now, and heal up, and we'll take on the gym next episode. So yeah, in the meantime, everyone go check out Aid480's perspective, or Gato Leche's perspective, which is linked in the description below. We will see you next time. Till then, bye.